Today we are bringing you all the tips that you need to win Dune Imperium Uprising, brought to you by the World Series of Board Gaming, which if you think that you've got what it takes to win the World Series of Board Gaming, prove yourself to be the best all-around board gamer, well, you can head on over to wspgvegas.com. Over here, grab your tickets. And by doing so, you're also going to get yourself a copy of this exclusive promo card, the Pivotal Gambit, which I think is just such a cool friggin' card. It's a Fremen card where you can trash it, gain a troop, and you add a bump on whatever influence track you want to whoever wins the battle. So if you don't win the battle, you're giving somebody else that boost. A very swingy card, but a very exciting one. What we love to do at the World Series of Board Gaming is work with the publishers to bring you all really cool stuff for the games that you love. We have a ton of them lined up. We've only announced 2 so far, so stay tuned to the World Series of Board Gaming's newsletter as well if you want to see what all the drops are. But last year, we had 5 publishers on board. This year, I think we're close to 12 at this point of providing exclusive content. We had the very first World Series of Board Gaming tournament map, the Arc Nova tournament map. We had a map for Heat, the Las Vegas track for Heat. We printed out a whole new board. We had a foil card, the first ever foil card for Dune Imperium, and now we're getting a promo card exclusively designed for players at the World Series of Board Gaming. All you've got to do is head on over to World Series of Board Gaming, wspgvegas.com, and book your ticket. And if you are interested in playing Dune Imperium Uprising, well, it takes place on the second day of the competition. You could play Earth, Cascadia, Raw, or Dune Imperium Uprising for all of your deck building, worker placement, thrills, and chills. And that's why we are going to be talking about it today. So if you're just new to the game, I want to include some tips that will be helpful to get you started. And if you're more familiar with Dune Imperium, well, there are going to be some pointers for you as well. And if you know all the pointers, well, hey, drop your best tips in the comments down below. That's the best part of the World Series is we are building up this community, putting board games on the forefront together, making this event the biggest and best success it can be, and just catapulting board gaming to the spotlight. It's a great time. We're going into our 4th year, and if you haven't participated yet, I highly encourage you to come and check it out. We have open gaming, Dice Tower West Library. We have 3,000 board games in the open gaming. We have a ton of fun tournaments. And of course, the main event where you can win $25,000 and prove to the world that you are the best all-around board gamer. So let's talk about Dune Imperium Uprising. I've put out a how to win on every one of the games that has been in WSBG so far. And so there is a video for Dune Imperium, which if you want to go and check that out, you can find more tips. I'm going to focus this specifically on Dune Imperium Uprising with a few tips in case this is your first entrance into the Dune Imperium universe. And boy, oh boy, it's a great game. It's number 13 on Board Game Geek right now. Number 13, which is incredible for releasing in 2023. It's just such a fun system and one that I continually enjoy and get more and more excited about the more I play. That's a nice picture. So let's get into the tips as to how to win Dune Imperium Uprising. Starting with number 5, which has to do with buying cards. And the same rules apply from Dune Imperium to this one as well. That's why I'm starting off at number 5. We're starting it easy, but you don't always have to spend all of your buying power. In many deck builders, you have to decide when you're going to spend that buying power and when you're not. Often, cards give you points. Everything gives you points in some deck builders. And so you want to be scooping up as many cards as possible. In Dune Imperium, that's not the case because a tailored deck in this game is way more powerful than a mishmashed one just filled with cheap cards. That can be said for a lot of deck builders. It's not necessarily the most innovative of tips, but it bears repeating especially. We can see here, for example, there's the Weirding Woman, an easy pickup, has the Bene Gesserit tag, but it's only really strong. It's only going to benefit you if you've been developing a Bene Gesserit deck. And even in that case, it's situational. It allows you to gain spice, and it allows you some of the flexible spaces on the board, like the research station, trading spice for money, or the ever-versatile Erikine dropping a troop and a card, which is good, but that one's always, I find, reasonably contested over. And so the efficacy of the Weirding Woman really depends upon your deck composition, like all these cards do. Generally in this game, you will really want to streamline in on these tags. They all do have a lot of synergy with each other. And I also find that the opportunities for card draw aren't as prevalent, depending upon the style of play that you're doing, as in some other deck builders. You really have to craft a deck that will create that card draw. And if you have that, then you can be a little bit more flexible with the cards that you add into your ensemble. But remember, it's okay not to purchase things at a certain phase of the game. And in fact, your game will be better because of it. So if you're not actively excited about that specific card getting into your deck because of how it combos with another card, or you're not overwhelmed with the power, if it costs 3 or lower, sometimes it's better just taking a pass and sticking with the things that you already have. Tip number 4 deals with spies. Now, spies are a new addition into Dune Imperium Uprising. They are not in the base Dune Imperium, but they are in Uprising. And spies can be used in 2 ways. They make a space unblockable, so you can be sure that you're going to be able to go to Highliner if you need to. You can drop that spy right down there. Or if you go to a space that has your own spy, you can remove that spy and draw a card. And my tip with spies, if you're just getting used to them, and again, there are always exceptions. That's what I love about this game, is that these tips aren't pan-applicable. I can think of about, 4 different cases at which this tip I'm about to give you doesn't apply. But in general, place the spy, if you've generated a spy, place the spy on the space that you're going next. It's just that simple. I find while playing this game that some of the spaces you will need to lock down, make sure that you can get there down the line. I think Highliner is one of those spots for sure. But for the most part, the value that you will get by locking down the next space that you want, not 2 turns from now, and just going there, and even if nobody has blocked you there, going there and removing the spy and getting that extra card draw. Again, this is a game where drawing through your deck matters. As you add cards to your deck, there's a maximum of 10 rounds in this game. Normally, a game will finish around 8, which means if you start with 10 cards in your deck, you're going to see each card maybe on average 4 times, 3 times. And so drawing through that deck means you can see cards a little bit more. Plus, you get your hand size larger to contribute to battles and to contribute to potentially purchasing the more interesting and exciting card. I find too often newer players will hold out with those spies. I think people sometimes treat spies like they treat health potions or stamina potions in video games, in that you've got them in your pack for 100 years, and then whoops, the game's over and you never capitalized on them, and that monster ended up chopping your head off. That's what can happen in Dune Imperium. Oftentimes, that 4D chess spy play is not the spy play that you'll want to do. Now, there are exceptions. The Spacing Guild in this game, its synergy is very centered around spies. I was playing a game a couple games ago where I went heavy into the Spacing Guild. It was super fun. And I had a card which, every time I played it, I got to move up on the tracks of everywhere that I had a spy. And that felt so powerful, so I dropped my spies down in 3 different tracks and said, perfect, this is where I want them to be. I'm just going to leave them there. But I got ahead of myself, too. With the 3rd spy, I was like, no, you know what? I think I can go to this one spot, pull it off in a couple turns, then add it down, and then my deck, if it works out correctly, if I don't draw into that card, it'll work out perfectly. I'll get that extra bonus. And then, of course, the next card I draw is the one that I wanted to activate my combo on, and I wasn't able to capitalize on that combo. So in these instances, plus there are a couple leaders who relate to spies. Who is it? Lady Jessica? Oh, Lady Margot Fenring can put spies on blue, and so will naturally put spies on blue because of their Signet Ring ability. And Staban or Staben Tuick has an incentive right here to place the spies on maker spaces of the board, because then anytime somebody visits them, it will be a constant stream of spice for him. And so there are these exceptions of where to put the spies, but in general, those big brain plays with spies often won't come about, and you will receive more value by using them on your turn rather than just having them sit there on the board. Again, 4th exception, one of the level 3 conflict cards requires you to remove 2 spies, which would get you a point if you win that battle. So you need to have gotten first in that battle, need to be developing your strength, and then also need to be removing your spies. It's great if you're building your strategy around it, but otherwise, use your spies. Use that extra card draw. You're going to be getting a lot of value from those card draws as well. Tip number 3, and I'll stay in with this zoomed in photo, is pay attention to who is going to gain their High Council and their Swordmaster first, and maybe delay for one turn. The Swordmaster, maybe not so much, but the High Council, if you are the second player or more to go and claim the spot in the High Council, you get 2 Spice, an Intrigue card, and 3 additional troops. If you delay by just one turn, if you see another player might be vying for it, and then you can make sure to capitalize right on the next turn, you're getting immense value where they've only gotten 2 extra buying power. Same with the Swordmaster. If you see that somebody's building up to those 8 coins with the Swordmaster, you can pivot your strategy and not worry about wasting your time getting up to 8 and making sure you lock in those 6 coins. This will require a little bit of finesse. You'll have to pay attention to the turn order. You'll have to pay attention to everyone else's resources as well. But I love not getting my High Council or my Swordmaster first with Uprising. I think it's such an exciting benefit of going second when you get that discount and you get those additional rewards and benefits, that sometimes it's not as beneficial rushing ahead. And so putting yourself into a situation where you force the other player to go for it, if you can suss out the table and sense out the feeling of the table of who's going to go for it, if somebody's going to go for it, or if your competitors are super far behind on the flip side of that, if they're not even close, then you know that's when you capitalize on it. Because then at least you can capitalize on that benefit for 2 turns. If they are doing the reverse situation, if they've seen this video and they just stopped at that one point and they said, great, I'm going to delay, well, then you can capitalize on that. Playing the game of grabbing the Swordmaster or the High Council first, you want to get the most benefit you can from it as a player. And in fairness, that might be a 5th place where you might want to just leave a spy hanging out if you are in this cold war with someone. Gives you the flexibility of going, or when you go there first, you'll no longer need it and then be able to draw the spy or draw a card with that spy and with that action. It's not my favorite place to plop a spy down, but it's not the worst one. These spaces are so powerful. They are these one-time abilities that you activate in the game, but they are integral to certain engines in this game as well. And so being able to capitalize on that and pay attention to those spaces in particular, I think is pretty important. Tip number 2 is don't stress about the battles, or at least the first 6 battles. In the first round of the game, in the first battle of the game, second place is always going to have more immediate benefits. Every card, the shift in this system is that every card has a symbol on it, and if you match 2 of those symbols with combat cards, you gain a point. So essentially, we can weight every card as being worth half a point. Because these cards are only worth half a point, and later on in battles 7, 8, 9, and 10, they're pretty much guaranteed to be worth 1 point, maybe 2 points, maybe 4 points, depending upon the time of day. Putting too much weight into these first battles can be a fairly costly mistake. Now, you can't just let one person win them all, because then essentially you've given them 3 points, 30% chance of winning the game. But I think one of the tips that I gave in the previous Dune Imperium video was to come in second in the battle. Like, coming in second is always a great thing. Getting some rewards from the battle is always a great thing. And the fact that the rewards are fairly comparable between the tiers, and that the point discrepancy isn't huge. Like, there's only 1 card, I think, in level 2 that can provide you with a point, and you have to spend 3 spice even in order to purchase it. And so saving up your troops and being aware of the tempo and being aware of when to drop your troops forward and make a big push, I think is very important. Again, this is why Dune Imperium is so great, and Dune Imperium Uprising is so great. If everybody at the table is doing that, then you can get away with all these points for very cheap. And so it's finding that balance between the two. But too often I find with newer players especially, they don't realize the benefit of what's coming down the line. And so they'll push in too soon. They'll trigger the spots on the board too soon. They'll spend their water too soon without being able to get the rewards that are coming down the line, and that can completely turn the tide of a game. And so tip number one is probably the most important tip of the video, and is probably could have been a video in itself as well. And that is the idea to prioritize the new mechanics. So I was trying to, with this video, give general tips for winning Dune Imperium Uprising without rehashing the tips that I gave for Dune Imperium in the How to Win Dune Imperium, while also not touching on all of the changes that have happened in this game. But I think two of the major changes that have happened, or the major change that has happened between Dune Imperium and Dune Imperium Uprising, is the addition of the worms. The worms are very, very powerful. Now, I've been playing a lot of Dune Imperium Uprising recently, and I specifically have not gone for worms in any of those games, and I have either won or lost to a tiebreaker in those games. So it's not the overpowered strategy, but the benefit of the worms is that they do double the reward for the conflict. And so when you get into those final battle stages, you need to be aware that people could win 4 points. They could just get 4 points, 40% of the score needed to win in one battle. These battles are pivotal. These changes are pivotal. That is probably the most significant change that has happened. But the reason why there is this new standalone expansion, the reason why we have decided to implement it into the World Series of Board Gaming, is because this is the updated version. These things were updated for a reason. There's a reason why, if you look at the corner of the board over here, it's much more exciting and it gets used a lot more. The spaces that people used often, like Arakeen, have stayed the same. The makers have stayed the same. The mechanics of the game have stayed the same. Many of the influence tracks have stayed the same. But the things that have changed are significant. So if you don't know where to start with Dune Imperium Uprising, think about what has been changed and why, just from a design standpoint, it was changed. It was obviously changed for a reason. It was obviously changed to add something new to the game. And so I was fine focusing on those new things, generating spies, getting value from spies, going to the new spaces on the board, getting the second place position bonuses, using the worms and just wrecking combat and getting 4 points in a combat. Capitalizing on these changes is how you will win Dune Imperium Uprising, because that is the DNA that is baked into the game. You don't need to have knowledge of Dune Imperium to play. It's a whole new different deck, a whole new set of leaders, but having some familiarity with what is different, with what spaces were different and what spaces remain the same, might help you focus in and stave off those worms from running rampant across the battlefield. Or maybe don't stave them off. Maybe you can use them yourself. So those are the 5 tips on how you can win Dune Imperium Uprising. Remember, if you sign up and if you play Dune Imperium Uprising at the World Series of Board Gaming, you're going to get this promo card for your game. We have them listed as well on the ones that we have announced on our website. You can see that everybody who plays in Earth will get a free Earth tableau. We have awesome player mats for everybody who's playing Earth. And for any specific rules to WSBG, you can check out on the website what we're using. For example, in Dune Imperium Uprising, we're not using the CHOAM module. We're just using the base $2 if you get a contract. It's also worth 2 Solari. Which does that mean we'll see less Emperor cards in play in the tournament scene? Well, I guess we're going to find out together. So if you knew all of these tips, if you're thinking, Chris, those tips don't even come close to my breadth and capacity and knowledge of Dune, well, drop your tips down in the comments below. And also, come and buy your ticket to the World Series of Board Gaming, and you might be walking away with the first ever Dune Imperium Uprising ring, moving on to the semifinals, and maybe taking home that $25,000 prize. It's a great event. It really is. If you haven't played, if you haven't come to WSBG, you can come for open gaming. You can see the vibe. You can take a vacation to Vegas, see some shows, and just connect with what is truly the friendliest competition that I have ever seen. Everybody's there to compete, but everybody's there to build the community and help board gaming grow. And we have some of the most incredible ambassadors for the hobby that I have yet to meet. I cannot wait to go back there and see how 2025 will shape out. And I can't wait to see you there. So get your tickets at WSBGVegas.com. Thanks for watching. My name is Chris George. And from all of us here at the World Series of Board Gaming, what are you waiting for? It is time to get in the game. This is your sign This is your sign, and this is your time.